all sexualities have to be known by the group members. He says analysand, but I don't think that that's a meaningful difference, as if those sexualities were also theirs. The idea being that any desire or fantasy or um, longing that a person can express in a group immediately becomes an invitation psychologically to everyone else in the group to try on, to taste, to see, oh, where's that? Does that turn me on? Does it turn me off? Why? What would that be like? This is, I think, very, very powerful, very unique also. There's nothing, I don't know of any space where you are on one hand invited to this level of psychic freedom and sort of imagination and creativity and erotic imagination, and at the same time, I mean, I guess you can read and watch, you can consume erotic like art, and then it's you're sort of receiving the artist's imagination and then you can try it on. But in the group, where you get, you know, multiple people's uh ideas and reactions. Oh, that's very good. That's very good. You get a whole sort of like 360 perspective about any image that comes up, any desire, any fantasy. And that often will include a lot of the psychological nuance that is missed in more consumable sort of like erotic media. So it's really not glamorous. Part of it might be partially glamorous, let's say, a little bit of, oh, this would be really arousing or exciting or tantalizing. And then very quickly it becomes awkward and nuanced and really relevant to each person's own expression and challenges as a sexual being, as a relational being. A big part of the erotic life of group is young fantasies, the desire to be a baby and be taken care of in some way by someone else in the group, held, nursed, cleaned, caressed, carried, appreciated, soothed. And then at every developmental stage, at every stage of life, that those desires can be expressed, to be sitting on the lap of the mother or father, to be talked about by the parents, and cared about and worried about, to uh to fight with the sibling, to play a game with the sibling, so there's all of that, let's say, all these sort of fantasies that you can have, these desires and longings. And I guess sort of implicit in this is you can have the experience a little bit of having a sibling if you didn't have one, or having a different configuration in the family. And then you get, well, okay, actually before that, you can have all of the sort of more Freudian incestual desires, whether it's specifically sexual or not, but the longing to be chosen and the love object of your mom or your dad or your sibling or whatever. And then it keeps going. So the sex life of a teenager, young adult, and adult life. A lot of group leadership, I think, is kind of like two steps. It's like you have to have an intuition or an idea of something that's happening under the surface. This is like step one, which you get by being in group yourself and exercising the muscle of allowing your own unconscious to give you all kinds of ideas that normally you don't let yourself have. So the more vibrant and free your inner world is, the more sort of material you have to reach for as to what might be going on in a group that's being hinted at, but not talked at directly. And then so if you have this idea that under the surface, there's the longings of every stage of life in us, that right now we all have baby and child and teenager and young adult and adult, and even what we haven't lived, because you could think of us as representing sort of humanity. So even, stages that you haven't lived in this life are in you in somewhere, in your memory, in your genes. And so in what you observed and experienced growing up in sort of the family's history. So all of that's present all the time. And then no matter what people say or do, you can wonder, and your own imagination will start to fill in the gaps of the possibilities. So a simple question of like, oh, how do we do this? You could wonder, what was it like for the child asking for help? How was that received? How did that go? As an example. So any interaction between people, and I'll invite you to share some seemingly non-erotic interactions that you've noticed in the groups you lead or just in your life or one-on-one work, you can associate to some unmet desire in the timeline of life. And then you can wonder about that and give voice to it and invite. And by doing that, you're modeling this kind of freedom of imagination, and you are inviting people to sink into and step into this and see what will emerge.